Hey guys, what's going on? This is Elliot from River City 93, and we just want to give a special shout out to For the Culture for hosting and being a part of this episode of Can I Kick It? Down in the description down below are links to For the Culture, Black Fires, and Featherstone Flamingos, and the organizations that they are currently partnered with. If you find it in your heart, click on the links down below and donate. If you can't, share with a friend. So with that being said, kick back, enjoy this podcast, and also remember to like, share, and subscribe. What's going on, guys? Welcome to a special episode of Can I Kick It? I'm your host, Elliot Barr, and today, instead of Shanair, he has to take care of the baby, I have 5 other good representatives. Well, make that 4. 5 is including me. 4 other representatives of Black soccer culture, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
I guess I'll start. This is TK down at ATL. How's everyone doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm Kyle. I am the co-founder of Featherstone Flamingos. I'm up in Madison, Wisconsin.
I'm Jake, co-founder of Black Fires in Chicago for Red Stars and Chicago Fire.
My name is Anil Akunji, formerly of the DMV, currently in Atlanta.
Anji, do you have a club you support, or are you just wearing Chelsea blue just for the sake of it?
Oh, I just want just let everyone just know. That's it. Chelsea on.
That still doesn't answer my question, but okay. As you can tell, this is kind of more of a laid-back podcast. With this weekend's upcoming Henny Derby, we wanted to kind of dive deeper into Black soccer culture. And I'm pretty sure these guys would agree with me. It's something that has really boomed over the last couple of years. Like, it's something that really started maybe, I want to say 5-ish years ago. But now you're starting to see the big boom of it. And I'm going to ask you guys this, and anyone can answer. What does it mean to have this, like I said, boom in Black soccer culture? Like, what does it mean to you in your respective city?
Well, I guess I'll just start first. I mean, I never been to the Henny Derby, but I've seen videos. I've seen photos, and it's awesome. I think it's a great introduction for a lot of Black people to get into soccer, especially here in Atlanta. We have a big, somewhat big Black soccer community, and it's growing by the day, especially with the soccer in the streets working everything up.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is just feeling more empowered to get involved with your local club or any club that you support. Kind of like what we were saying, 5-10 years ago, that might not be the case. You might feel like you're the only one and there's no one like you out there. But I think since then, we've been able to see, with this podcast episode being a prime example of it being spread out enough that I think more and more people are feeling empowered, and more people are showing that, yeah, this is a sport that I can get behind.
Okay. JTK?
Yeah, I was going to say that, especially like from watching what you guys been doing with the Henny Derby, like specifically you and Kyle, is like, when you see this huge derby and there's so much hype and someone's interested in it, you can say, yeah, this is a Black-made derby. Like, this is why these two teams are playing each other. Like, this is the kind of history behind it. There's not any, like, lame, forced things. Like, no, like, Black supporters got together and made a derby around Black culture. And it's so awesome. So, like, the work that everyone here is doing, and, like, Apollo Culture Club in New York and everything, like, it's only just getting bigger, which is incredible. So...
Yeah, no, I would echo the sentiments of everyone previously before me. And just for me, I feel that the one key thing is I feel it's like there is no longer like a token kind of Black person around. It's like squads now, like it's a 5-a-side right now. So Yeah, that's I think the overwhelming feeling that I personally have when I'm in and around the city and seeing the representation of blackness within soccer today, which I didn't feel like I saw black announcers, more predominantly black players advertise, or just a presence of the black supporter as well.
TK, actually, I want to take one thing that you took and kind of make it form it into a question. Anyone can answer this, but comparative today, where you see the likes of DeMarcus Beasley, Maurice Edu on TV talking about the game of soccer versus when we all prospectively got into the game. Talk about how that makes you feel, not only as like this growing soccer fan in America where the game is still young, but also as a black supporter to see that level of representation.
I mean, for me, I kind of would start with, when the Bleacher Report and all of them had the Champions League rights. It was very awesome to see Maurice Edu and also Tim Howard do the halftime shows and everything. And I love it how they had, love the representation. It was great. I just wish they had better execution with it.
Yeah, and I mean, you could also, with Bleacher Report, you see Aaron West doing interviews with all these coaches and players as well. And I mean, for people that have been following Aaron since his days at like Copa 90, to see him grow and to see him, get more involved. I mean, he also did the Women's World Cup stuff as well. So I think it's just like seeing someone like that where they are authentically themselves. That's a big deal.
Okay. That is a big thing.
Yeah, same with that. It's like, oh, my bad.
You good, Jake.
No, I mean, it just real quick. It's just like Kyle said, like, you have more than like when I was getting into the game, you have more black personalities. You have black players that aren't just the fast ones on the team. They have like skill and they're getting celebrated and stuff like that. You have personalities who are being themselves. So, that's crucial to getting people in the game who might not have been a part of it. Just like, okay, cool, I can be myself during this. So,
okay.
If I could actually loop it back, that's a great point. To how a little bit of a part of your first question into this question here. For me, it was like seeing that just black representation, and that's all I see it as. It's like I see someone who looks like me, and like I'm dark skinned, bro. So like seeing that up in the forefront and having their opinion being essentially just valued was a lot of justification for me as a black supporter. That's how I came into love with Chelsea. I see Kalu, I see Maluda, I see Drogba, I see all this blackness, Essien, Anelka, like the list goes on, Baswinga, like it was just an overload for my senses. And I was like, this has got to be my club. Like blackness is running straight through it. Ramirez is one of my favorite players of all time, So I claim the Brazilians, the Portuguese, black is beautiful, man. I think that's the representation is huge. And I think sometimes we minimize how that impact is, can really take someone over the edge.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we're kind of blessed to be in the era of where not only do we get to watch all these different soccer leagues across the world, because I can remember growing up, it was hard enough to even watch like college football in some parts of the nation. So being able to see like all these different leagues now, but then also the representation of black players, black announcers, people such as Aaron West, making it big, like it definitely speaks volumes. I'm gonna ask you one question, Jake, and can you just speak to us? What are you doing down there with the Black Fires and with Chicago Fire, and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think counter to a lot of groups out there, where we actually identify the supporters group. So we're both with Chicago Red Stars for NWSL and Chicago Fire, obviously. I think it's a lot of things that you guys are doing, like just making a space for Black culture and Black heritage to be celebrated, to be treasured, to be brought into the game here. Because Phil, who's not on here, he is my co-founder, like, we were the only two Black dudes at games for a very long time. And like, there's another person, and at fire games named Welly. Like, I can't even imagine how long she was the only black person at a game. So, and like Chicago, it's Chicago. Like that's like it. We just like it's crazy that you can go to Chicago sporting event and be one of 3 black people at a sporting event. We're like, no, this guy be changed. So, we've been trying to do a lot of like Black History Month event. We try doing that every year. We just are around and like, trying to be loud at games when they were games, to, bring in black fans and be like, hey, like, you don't have to go through that weird thing of looking around and being the only person, like feeling like the only person there. And lately we're trying to work with some local teams to like put camps in the South Side, the West Side, like neighborhoods that get ignored when soccer development kind of get brought into question. So that's a big thing we're trying to do right now.
Okay. And this is actually a question I'm gonna ask all of you guys because I'm pretty sure all of us experienced it at some level. What does it mean when you walk into a soccer event and you're the only black guy there, and then you spot another black person that is like decked out in soccer gear? Like, what is your like? Take me through the steps. What are the 5 steps that you were feeling during that moment? We'll start with you, Kyle.
I mean, for me, it was just like right from day one. It's like I saw there's a picture that Fort Madison, the Flock, I should say, had on their trip down to Chattanooga, and there's someone wearing a jacket, and I was like, wait, hold on, who is this person? And I noticed it was Chris, and Chris was someone that I had ran into a few times because when watching EPL matches in the morning, it's like you see them, it's like I kind of know who you are, like I know you're there, but when it gets to Fort Madison matches, like all right, you're there just as much as I am. And then we were having meetings, and that's kind of when April decided I'm going to join. It's like, oh, there's another black person showing up and helping out. Like, okay, this is pretty great. And it's like you just get those moments where you kind of just you do a double take, and you're like, wait, that is a black person. They're wearing soccer gear. Okay, I need to go talk to them. I need to figure out who they are because I got to make sure at the very least I have some conversation with them so they don't feel like the only person there. They don't feel like the token black person.
Kanji?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like I remember going to my first Atlanta United game, and the only black person I remember meeting was Rashad. He was like the first person I ever met, and I was shocked to see that. Oh, so there are other black fans than me. Yes, this is not really much of a story, really.
I'll take it, man. Hey, if it's authentic to you, I'll take it. At least you felt welcome. Jake, what about you, my man?
Yeah, I mean, I went through my whole life like playing hockey and like waiting for that exact moment of like running into a black person, but very hard to do. So like when I went to soccer, I was like, all right, like when I started going to fire games like 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, this is gonna be the same old thing, like going to a North Lot and just looking around and be like, bro. But I met Phil at like the AGM. So fortunately, like when I became a newer fan, like I instantly hit someone already, and me and Phil were just like, like you're here too? Like, okay, all right. But yeah, I mean, it's the same reaction we get with some other people. It's just like, seeing a bunch of black people standing around in tailgate, they're like, oh, okay. And like Kyle said, like just making it available, just like being like, hey man, yeah, we're out here.
True. TK?
Yeah. I say it kind of started before Atlanta United became a thing here. I was going to Chelsea matches, just by myself living in Atlanta, and I'd hit up Brew House, and it was just me continuously kind of showing up at the bar, and eventually I'd run into a black guy, and I was like, oh, okay, we got black soccer fans. And so my money wasn't just right. So it would be like one, in passing to say, what's up, dog, just something like that. But really when it's I'd say full effect is when United first came out. Gregor reached out to me about doing a flag. And I think we had crossed paths beyond the Facebook group. So got Facebook to thank for something nowadays. But yeah, man. And then it came along with Tony. I think he bought seats from the person who sits behind me, and then I met Tony, and then Rashad, and then just kind of dominoed into our culture chat group from there. And
Okay, all right. For me, it actually started. That's how I actually met Shaneer. It was at my first Richmond Kickers game, and I just happened just to walk up the hill, and I see this black guy standing. And I'm like, "Oh, never seen you before. You look like a new black." And went over to him, and we just started chatting and hanging out. And then from there, we met like Charles, he's another black fan. So it was like three of us. And then very so often there'll be like one random like black guy that comes into like the tailgates and stuff, and it's kind of just like, oh snap, more! It's more of us. So that's how it was all started. TK, I'm gonna ask you a question, man. Explain to us the importance of having media outlets like For the Culture, 2 Cents, Apollo Culture. Can you talk about the importance of having those kind of media outlets? How do they come to be, such as FTC? And then what are the next steps for, media brands like that?
Well, it's just it's like the essential news, for that related topic. So there's not too much black cultural, like think about it like a news station. Is there a BET for the news? Like, so to have something a curated kind of thing for soccer within black culture, or black culture within soccer rather, it's really nice. And then to be able to niche it with all the different supporter groups within Chicago, in Chicago or in Richmond or in Wisconsin, like being able to niche your market is very crucial, because what Atlanta's doing may not come across the same, may not be hitting with people in Chicago or Virginia or something like that. So it's real nice to be able to have that, to be able to put the individual perspective on it. So that's one of the reasons I believe it's going to be crucial, to have multiple, kinds of black cultural soccer groups. Because, one can't reach them all. We're not all the same at the end of the day. We're all individuals, and in order to unite, we have to be able to do that within small pods like cities, and then congregate to states and a country. You know how that works. It's a pyramid.
Sure. I'm gonna ask you guys another group question. So if you're not getting the flow of how the show is going yet, you kind of have to catch on to it now. With Black Lives Matter really blowing up this year, and we all know the reason why COVID happened, so everyone was kind of forced to pay attention to what's actually happening to Black people and realize that we're not lying about police brutality and things like that. Can you guys all just talk about how does soccer culture latch on to these problems in the Black community, and how do you feel about how they are more or less doing the work more than just saying, hey, we support Black Lives Matter? And what does it mean to you to see like our favorite team support Black Lives Matter? Whoever would like to start.
Yeah, I'm going to start first with this. Yeah, so one thing that surprised me first was how the message spread not only just in America, but the entire world. I think one of the first I remember seeing, I was watching Bundesliga, and Frankfurt had the Black Lives Matter kits, which I'm still DMing them about, saying, hey, sell those for me, I want one. So, I mean, it was great for them to do that. EPL, same thing as well. As for here with the MLS, I really love how started a new Black coalition to get together to talk about social justice issues and everything. The NFL also did theirs as well, and also the NBA, but they've been doing that for years. I really love this. Love the organizations that are being done, and I hope this will bring to real change in the future.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, especially with lower league soccer, I think they've done a decent enough job. I think they've brought awareness, and it's easier to spot which clubs and organizations aren't doing anything. For example, like a Chattanooga Red Bulls, they haven't made a statement, they haven't done anything, and they don't plan on doing it. While I'm thankful enough that Ford Madison has, they put the actions behind the words. Yes, they do screw up when it comes to certain tweets, but at least you can talk to them and they can turn it around. And I think that's just one of the things that in lower league soccer, you notice more the clubs that aren't doing anything than the clubs that are. And I think that's a big deal. And it's good to see, MLS taking this, having their demonstration, having a black coalition. It's good to see, Weston McKennie wearing an armband that has George Floyd's name. It's good to see other black players kneeling. It's good to see, in the EPL, the first week, every kid saying Black Lives Matter. And I think that's kind of the important thing, is getting the message is the start, and then putting the action behind the message is the next thing. And now that's what we need to make sure that we hold our clubs accountable for.
But is it enough? Even with all these things going on, is it enough?
It's never going to be enough until they do. It's never going to be enough, because at the end of the day, we still have a clown in the White House, and people following that clown. It's going to take more. I mean, it's good that they have their reach, but until everyone realizes it, it's never going to be enough.
Very true. Very true.
Definitely.
We just saw a couple of days ago. I'm just saying, a couple of days ago, we saw what happened with that family of 5 or 6 that got arrested in Aurora, Colorado. That was horrible.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. For me, I think it's gonna be more of like, we really need to see black and other cultures integrated into high level positions. I'd like to see more black managers. I'd like to see more black or people of culture or further diversity on the boards of the club. I'd like to see someone on the board of the EPL, if we're going to go a little bit worldwide, as you were saying, Anu, about how it just, it wasn't just America. The world was forced to watch. So I think that's when we, really are that's going to be enough. Because then we can start working things from the inside, like change your politicians and your locally, and then you can affect change globally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm with that. Basically, it's like, it's nice and everything, but until you have the people on the inside, like TK is saying, it's always going to be something you have to beg for or react for. This stuff needs to be proactive. I'd like to see definitely more black managers, and it's more than just players, just training staff, scouting's a big thing, and statistics and all that, seeing more black people involved with that, seeing soccer development in black neighborhoods, instead of just having them drive out all the way to some far off suburb or training facility or something like that, or pricing them out. It's nice, of course. I'm not gonna say nobody should be saying Black Lives Matter or anything. It's really cool. It's just I'm hoping that energy goes to the next step, which is making sure that this kind of stuff is apparent in how the game's run.
Yeah, that's very true. We got to make sure that not only do we hold these clubs responsible, but we're also holding our communities responsible, and making sure that these clubs represent us in the true nature that we want to be represented. But that we got to do our part. Akanji, I'm gonna ask you a question, man. You're down there in Atlanta. You're down there in the hotbed, hot ATL as they call it. The homeland of Jeezy, my favorite rapper. Just talk to us about how Atlanta has latched on to soccer in their community, but then also how Atlanta itself has become the mecca of black soccer culture.
Well, it was a bitter surprise to me, very much. I never thought that for a place like here, so deep in the South, where, of course, football is king, that we'll have such a big fan base. Obviously, yes, I said it before, my first Atlanta United game, I met Rashad, and eventually I met basically most of the black fans we have. Reggie, if you ever met Reggie, he's probably one of the best capos I've known. He's always up there in the soapbox, out there yelling and telling people, get into soccer. Soccer is a great sport to be in. One of my favorite things was whenever I was at work, they always see me wearing the gear to say, hey, man, I want to come to a game with you. And, I bring them to the game and they love it. Also, the thing is, also being part of a supporters group, I get to work with a few charities. One of my favorite ones, Soccer in the Streets. Pretty much have like the most ambiguous plan I've ever seen about over putting soccer fields in almost every MARTA station in Atlanta. So it's great just to stop by in a MARTA station, see a soccer field right there, and kids are playing in there all day, all night. It's awesome. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man. I mean, I got a special love for Atlanta, especially being here from Richmond. I've been to Atlanta like once or twice. But it was really cool when I went down there. I was able to see that like, I have like these street soccer pitches at the subway stations, and I'm just like, that's blowing my mind away. Just like, yo, this city has really like latched on to like soccer like this. And then also was like the cool video y'all did with Copa 90 talking especially about like Black soccer culture and like who's the lady down there that does the tifos?
Vera.
That'll be our very own.
Yes, her.
Vera Ziegler. Yeah, man, the tifo queen.
We gotta protect her no matter what. Like nothing can touch her. No scandal, no nothing. We have to protect her. She's a sacred.
No, we keep her well guarded. That's like like the mother Queen Ant status, Queen Bee. You know, she stay in a hive.
All right, yeah, man. She is.
Yeah, you know, I absolutely hate how people go after her for that Continental Tires commercial. It's freaking ridiculous, man.
What? I love that, man. That was so dope to see. Like not only it was kind of like the trifecta, like a Black woman soccer fan. Like it was amazing to see that commercial. I can't believe people are actually calling that, man. That some people got the crab mentality.
Oh, we got haters, man.
Yep. Well, it's not even just like Atlanta haters. It's like a Black and a woman thing. Like you got to start there if we're gonna be real about it, and then you're like, oh, we're talking about soccer. This is a tire commercial. Where's my white guy? So I mean,
why do people go after her?
They say that she's Continental is inflating the tifo budget, but I can vouch for that. I'm in the same supporter group as Vera is, which is a Resurgent RSG, and it's nothing of the sort. A lot of that money is all coming from the actual supporter members, and then you have members of other supporter groups who are donating parts of their fees, and they take up donations. People go and work in this huge warehouse that there's a rent bill on. They don't talk about all that stuff. So a lot goes into it on the back end, but all you'll hear is the slack on the front from the keyboard warriors. So we don't hear all that noise.
Yeah.
That's how people aren't as involved in their SG as when they're criticizing from the outside, not knowing what went into it.
That is true. That is very true. Very true. So I got another group question to ask you guys. We kind of brought it up already, but what's the next steps going forward for Black soccer culture in America, and how do you expect it to grow in the next 5-10 years? Anyone can start.
More legitimate. It was an honor for I know for the culture. We were mentioned, or MLS mentioned us on the official soccer podcast within Atlanta, and getting recognition like that is it's a nice pat on the back, if you will. But to push that even further, where you become a platform that's undeniable, like it's almost like how every Arsenal fan knows Arsenal Fan TV. Like it's synonymous now with everything going on. So I think that's something to aspire to, and more involvement maybe with players, and you're just seeing further integration all around. Things like that would be nice to see.
Yeah, I would say the next steps are, TK kind of touched on it, with more involvement, both with the players, both with creating more SGs for your respective clubs, and also getting into, the leadership roles in SGs and the bigger ones. So, seeing if there would be a Black person that was president of Timbers Army, for example. That would be huge. Seeing these large supporters groups in the United States and having more Black leadership on those supporter groups, I think that would be huge to see moving forward, in 5-10 years.
What if a Black guy cuts the log?
They probably won't give him the chainsaw though. Definitely, you can't. You probably won't trust him. But Portland, is it Portland? Seattle that's wilding right now? It's one of the two.
Portland.
Portland.
I mean, Seattle probably is.
Seattle
We
is
just haven't heard it.
They take it about quick. I'm Timber Joe. I'm Timber Joe. No, you're not. Get in the crowd. See, yeah, we don't need that. I don't need Black people realizing soccer at that level that they're out here doing the thing that we're trying to protest against. No. I forgot who was answering the question, but whoever it was, you can go back to it.
All right. To answer your question, I believe that we just need to see like more integration integration for Black people to get into soccer. One of my favorite things about Atlanta United is the homegrowns. Some of the kids who play on the first team are from, who live here in Atlanta and everything. George Bellows, like one of my favorites. He's Nigerian from West Africa, like myself. And, it's awesome to see him play. And I'm hoping that with these youth academies being set up, and of course with soccer in the streets, we're going to be able to see more Black stars rise up from these pitches and probably play in the academy. And sooner or later, we're going to be out there cheering for them in the Mercedes-Benz.
Jake, did you answer yet?
I did not.
Okay.
I think the cool thing is I don't know what the next step is. I think it's so wide open right now, especially with all the attention just on bringing Black integration into sports. Really, I mean, you could go any way. You go with what Kyle's saying and have SG spring up and more for the cultures for teams that don't have them. Imagine a for the culture for Colorado or something. That would be kind of weird, but pretty cool at the same time. I think also bringing up more Black integration into the women's game is also going to be huge too. That's a sport where there's a lot of successful Black women that go under. Imagine women's soccer coverage just being down here, and then Black women in women's soccer being down here in terms of being covered. I think that's the next step. It should be if you're talking about soccer as a whole, but I mean, if you're just sticking with men's soccer, I think having more Black leaders in coaching, playing, development, media, that kind of thing, just getting more out there, so it's not just Aaron and just just Marie to do. So I think that's the next step.
Yeah. I actually want to pick up on something you said, Jake, that really piqued my interest. When it comes to women's soccer, what needs to happen to expand not only the coverage in that sport, but also the coverage of the coverage of Black women in the sport? Because, for instance, when I was doing another episode of Can I Kick It on Wendy Renard and Crystal Dunn, it's really the only information I got about them was when it was going into the World Cup. Anything else prior to that, outside of Crystal Dunn, because she was at UNC, but Wendy Renard, there's nothing about her transition from Martinique to Olympic Lyon. There was nothing in between, how she was at training and things like that. So, just real quick, what needs to happen to expand not only media coverage in the game of women's soccer, but how can we help them out more?
First of all, great. Those are great episodes, by the way.
Thank you. We worked really hard on that one. It took forever to find the right information.
Well, I'm going to say this at first. I mean, one thing I remember was when I was watching the Women's World Cup, I remember one of the things they did was they expanded upon the amount of teams to be in it. And also, I would add, a lot of these countries have already started establishing their own women's national teams. I think Taiwan. Did Taiwan start theirs? Was their first one for Taiwan, right? No, Thailand. My bad. Thailand. It wasn't.
Yes. I think Taiwan has, but still, same thing.
But yeah, a lot of women's teams have been established, and of course, after the Women's World Cup ended, it also led to the establishment of big clubs starting their own women's teams. we just got word, Real Madrid just started their women's team and they signed a black woman as their very first player, which is a great step into bringing more media coverage to the women's game.
Yeah, and like go ahead. Sorry.
No, you good, Jake. You good.
Okay. I think it's like this big loop. It's like news outlets and like existing teams don't spend money on women's teams because they don't make money. They don't make money because they don't get covered, and because they don't get covered, nobody wants to buy into it. And it's like someone's got to break the loop. You know what I mean? Like Chicago Sun-Times, like there's a reporter named Annie that's out here constantly pushing it. I can only imagine what that newsroom is looking like when she's like, "Hey, sports editor, like, the Red Stars are in the finals of NWSL Challenge Cup," and just being in a sports newsroom in college, like a lot of them roll their eyes when it comes to women's sports because of that exact loop. Like no one watches it. Well, no one watches it because no one covers it, and if no one's covering it, they don't make money. So, I think it's just people just gotta take that leap and. Like what you're seeing with NWSL LA, like the money, people are willing to be invested for it. You just gotta make that first jump.
Yeah.
But I think you can see it, with LA and also Louisville. If you put something out that gets people excited, if you put something out that's good, people will go to it. You can get the coverage, and we saw with NWSL Challenge Cup, the 2 matches that were on CBS, big CBS, they were getting, 500, 700,000, and that's a large number. That's something that, people keep saying, well, like Jake says with the loop, it's like, well, that's not true. It's just you don't want to put in the effort to promote it. You don't want to put in the effort to cover it. You don't want to put the effort and the money into it. I think that's really what needs to change. You just got to put in the effort. And I can use one of my clubs, Liverpool. The men's team, one of the best in the world, but their women's team got relegated. And there's an article on The Athletic on how they only had 9 dedicated staff members to the women's team. And that's not enough. And, it's like the men's team has the money. There's clearly money there, but they're not using it for the women's team. And now the women's team suffers because of it. And it's unfair because it should be at least equal. If not, you should be putting in that same effort for both sides. If you're going to preach this message about being a unified, like one team or one, like it's all the same name, like it's all Liverpool, it's all Chelsea, it's all, Chicago, then you got to put in the effort and the money and the care towards it to actually make that come true.
Yeah, that is crazy. I never did that about Liverpool's woman. That's like you had this one team on top of the world, winning the FIFA World Cup, Champions League, even probably Europa League. Champions of England, but got this women's side that can be equally as dominant is suffering. That's really sad to see. TK, what you got to say, man?
Nah, I'm gonna cut you in right there. The best women's team on the planet belongs to Chelsea. They've had that going for quite some time.
What about Lyon?
Lyon is a tough second. They are. But I don't think they're better than Chelsea, especially now that we got Aaron and Kirby. The link up. Oh, anyway, they were already awarded champions of England while Liverpool was getting relegated. But yeah, just echo a lot of the sentiments that were already previously said. If that saturation is there, then yeah, and you could have a lot of the attention that you're trying to garner in the first place by being proactive and putting out a good product that people will latch onto. I think that's a great new example of that is LA with the Angels. I'm waiting on Atlanta. I think they're dragging their boots on getting a women's team here because I think they've already missed the boat for that, honestly, where they could have done that and totally rode the wave of winning a championship with the men's team, having a decent second year following that with the change of coach, So just more of that where we see integration to the women's game and equal funding. I think the Women's World Cup did a lot. We had a lot of those players specifically speaking out, and even further down that wormhole with players from other countries speaking out against their own federations about wages not being paid till a year and a half later. You know, there's a lot of shit that happened where the women are getting treated pretty bad in comparison to the men. So if at nothing, let's get some equal treatment.
Yeah, true. I definitely, there's none more I can add to that. Kyle, I got a question for you, my man. I promise it's not going to be a Henny Darby question. We have talked on ends about that. I don't think there's anything else need to be said. I think everyone knows who created it, who put it out, Henny Wings, anything and everything in between. I'm just going to ask you, talk about Featherstone itself and how special and unique it is to have that partnership with Forward Madison, or something like to call it Madison Marking FC. If you can't tell, I have a little hate in my voice because Kyle's one of the last two iterations of the Henny Darby, so I'm going to let him have this smoke before you answer this question. Can you just, once again, just talk about that connection and what are the things that Featherstone are looking to do within the Madison community as a whole?
So one of the biggest things with Featherstone is with it being created, we knew we needed a Black supporter group because we had a Latinx supporter group in La Barra. We had a women's supporter group with Mingle Ladies. And it was kind of one of those where we knew we needed to have a Black supporter group, and that's how Featherstone came to be. And just working with the club and trying to keep as good of a communication as we can, that's been helpful. Obviously, when they drop the ball at things like the Henny Glazed Wings, we got to call them out on it. And I think that's something that, you know, is important as well, is making sure that the club at least hears you out. But things that we are doing in Madison, you know, we had a Black Lives Matter training top where April, one of our co-founders, we met with the club right at the beginning of all this happening, and she found a Black local artist and had him design the training top. And she was able to coordinate with him and the players in the club to get that training top to be sold, and then all the proceeds go to the YWCA. We had Black Lives Matter signs, yard signs that we wanted to do, and just sold those. And the proceeds got split between Featherstone and 4 other Black organizations. You know, one, Urban Triage. They're the ones that have been out the most protesting in Madison, and also helping out with trying to pay people's bail. We have like a Black Women's Wellness Center that we wanted to fund. So just stuff like that. And, you know, when you raise over $21,000 with those signs, it's kind of like, that's kind of a big deal because, you know, that's $4 or $5 grand that each org can get. And that's something that, you know, that's just the stuff that we're doing. That's not stuff that other people on the side might have done. And we're going to do a drill night and a heritage night based off of what you did last year, Elliot, but COVID kind of got in the way of that. We're trying to do as much as we can to get involved and kind of just display the Black culture that's in Madison, because as white as Wisconsin is, there's still Black people in Wisconsin. And we want to make sure that we can appeal to them as much as we can. And, you know, during the off season, we were having kickbacks where we were just hanging out and just inviting people to come chill and hang out with us.
Sure. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm from the South. Even though I got family in the North, I'm truly from the South. And excuse my ignorance, but it was not until I saw you guys that I thought Black people was in Wisconsin. I thought he went as far north as maybe Detroit. That was it. I didn't think that was the state we went to.
There's still Milwaukee. Milwaukee was always Black.
Every time I watched a Brewers game or a Bucks game, I saw nothing but white people. So my mind was just like, "Oh, that's
okay." Brewer games are a bad example but Bucks games, when they were shit in the '90s, there were plenty of Black people because tickets were always like $5-10. That's how I became a fan.
All right, that's probably true. I got a question I'm gonna ask you guys. It's kind of unique. With this emergence of the U.S. men's national team to have so many young Black stars that, like the likes of Timothy Weah, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie, and then on the international market you have like Mbappe blowing up. Can you guys, each of you, just choose one person, international and American, that will be the carriers of Black soccer culture in America, and also a woman, if you know it. You got to show love to women. And everyone's thinking again. Kind of got you guys stopped.
Man, I'll jump in, I guess. I want to say N'Golo Kante, but it's got to be someone who's a little bit more vocal. And then you said American, so yeah. Or like maybe not American.
Well, anyway,
but to be influencing in America. I mean, there's a couple, on the national team, but I think to have influence in America as a person of elite status is going to be Pogba for me,
Yeah.
So I think that he translates. His brother played here in MLS. He's on the a United squad. United has probably some of the most well advertised dollars in football, world football today. So I think his outreach could be huge, and he could be a voice. But if I was going to choose a American player, I'd maybe say DeAndre Yedlin. He's been very vocal recently, and so.
Yeah, I think recent reports have him coming back to MLS, right?
I believe so.
But the problem is it would have to be a designated player thing because of salary if he came back.
It was how we was taking younger, longer because I love seeing them in Newcastle. But he comes back, he's pretty much as much as he has. Jake, you want to answer the question, man?
Yeah. So I imagine like you mean like a mix of playing ability and like TK was saying, like vocal, like being vocal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I think Weston McKennie's it, man. Like, I watch obviously a lot of Bundesliga. He was literally Schalke for the second half of the season. Like, that dude's so good, and he was one of the first people like carrying that torch in the Bundesliga of like Black Lives Matter. Like, we need to like do this stuff during the games and stuff like that. Like, he was one of the first people to like get everyone to start doing that. So, I mean, like, I'm just really impressed by him. US. Oh wait, I guess that's US. International. I'm blanking out on the Manchester United thing, and I'm sure several people are sharpening their knives on me. But what was the name of the person who got Parliament to like? I don't know why this name's skipping out on me.
Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, Rashford. I think Rashford's gonna come up, and hopefully like Greenwood will kind of follow him in that aspect. Women's, like, I am a big stand for Sarah Gordon. I think she's just extremely vocal. She's extremely good. I think people are finally starting to notice that now. I'm hoping that means U.S. national team appearances where she can like build that up even more. But I would say those are my three.
Okay. Yeah. Jake, real quick, I want to ask you a question, man, because you are more of an anomaly when it comes to Black soccer culture. Like, there's Black soccer culture, there's Black soccer culture in USL, and then there's Black soccer culture in Bundesliga, man. Like, just real quick, how did you become a Bundesliga fan, and how are the Bundesliga itself dealing with Black Lives Matter, if you know?
Yeah, so I'm going to cut it down because I could talk about this forever. But my mom's side of the family is also partially German, so that kind of like was an introduction when I was a kid. I started getting into it more with like German national team, and like Bundesliga was like finally on TV and like on the dark side of the internet. Not that I ever go on there, but you're able to get it streaming in certain places. But yeah, it was like it really picked up really, really big when I like moved to Germany. And that was a whole, like you were saying, like it's an anomaly and an anomaly, like going to a soccer bar and just like, I think that kind of like what spurred on me to try to change stuff here is like, it's such a global game, and I would go to a bar in Germany and be the only Black person watching it, and like not that many Black players, and you're just like, this is weird. But yeah, I mean, Germany is a big country that tries to put out social responsibility for historic reasons. But, and this might be a hot take, I think Europe sometimes likes to gloss over the Black community until it's convenient. You see that done with France sometimes, where if like, for example, like if the player for the French national team is doing bad, he's Algerian or Cameroonian. But if he's good,
Anelka?
like maybe
he's banished.
What?
He's banished.
Yeah.
Anelka, remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they're not, and you saw that with Balotelli. Like, you saw these people like putting on, and like anything bad happening, their nationality put into question. And Germany's guilty of that too, specifically with Turkish people, but also black people too. There's black Germans like Rudiger. He gets put under a knife a lot, even though he's really quality. So, in my long-winded answer, I think like Bundesliga, that's very uncharted territory, and I think Weston McKennie is doing a lot to bring that there. And I think Germany's going to bring it in really well because, like I'm saying, they try to kind of keep an eye on that stuff, but it's been uncharted for a pretty long time, and I think Europe in general has a lot to work on with that.
Kyle, you, my man, please answer the question.
So I was thinking for U.S. men's, I was thinking Josie, just because he's been very vocal on Twitter. He's been very vocal, for years now, even beforehand. And I think he's kind of that epitome of, he was one of those first guys that was kind of calling into it out of the U.S. men's national team. So for him, I'd pick Josie. For women, I would say, Sarah Gordon or Casey Short. I would say one of those two. Definitely got really involved. Obviously, Casey was part of the, kneeling national anthem situation on the first Challenge Cup match that Chicago had. And then internationally, I was thinking, I think Rashford was the first person that popped in my head just because of everything that he's done. Someone that I wonder moving forward, just as they get bigger and as their profile grows larger, is going to be Alphonso Davies, just because he could be a dude that, he's already at Bayern. He's killing it at Bayern. He might go to any other club in the world in the future, and he's probably going to be like the guy for the Canadian national team. I just wonder if he's going to be someone that will speak up about it more and more as his profile and as his star power grows.
Yeah, man. It's kind of weird being a fan of Manchester. It's not weird being a fan of Manchester because we're awesome, great, and lovely. I said the only Manchester on this podcast, just right after that. But it kind of reminds me of like those early Arsenal teams in the early 2000s where it was done with just a collection of black talent and all of that. So it's kind of cool to see that history kind of create itself with this Manchester United team. Will have the success? I don't know, because for every sports team I like, they disappoint me with heartbreak. Akanji. So I'm gonna ask you the question because you were on when I asked it, but just give us one American and one international player that you think could be the representatives of Black soccer culture going forward.
Well, Kyle already said my answer. Josie Altidore. I love how active he is. He is on the scene, especially on Twitter. What was it? Not only Marcus Rashford, but also Raheem Sterling of Manchester City. Both of them have done a lot of great outreach to each other, especially when they decided to, to help feed a lot of the poor children around there in England. Weston McKennie, Mr. McKennie, does a lot of great things there in the Bundesliga, and I'm hoping to see more active Black soccer players get into that because it brings its weight here. It just brings that pull, And of course, like how you said, Alphonso Davies. He's a big star in the Bundesliga, especially with Bayern Munich. And hopefully, as he grows, he will probably – I hope he does. He follows the same steps as the others, no matter which club he's in.
And I actually just remembered a player, and I don't know how I forgot it because he is on my own club in Liverpool, Gini Wijnaldum. He's been calling out the racism over in the Netherlands, and because I know the Netherlands had a tradition where everyone would dress in blackface. And Genie called it out. He's like, I don't know why this is still a thing. This shouldn't be a thing. So he's someone that I should have thought of it right away, but he has been someone that has been vocal about racism as well.
That's what I really like seeing too, just to kind of season some of those points, like Rudiger being a black German or Balotelli being a black Italian, black Dutch. We're a part of these cultures, It's just not like 100% Dutch and people who are white, fair skin. So having that recognition and people being aware of that, I think, is a huge part too. You know, it's just not black isn't just black.
Yeah. My two picks, of course, Sanji brought it up, but also Raheem Sterling for all that he's went through. I remember, I think it was his previous World Cup where he had the gun tattoo, and Piers Morgan was like going at him about it, like, "Oh, we got it for gun violence, this and that." But Raheem Sterling like came out his mouth and said, like, "No, this is for my father who got killed." And it's still the media try to warp it when how he's been and really the catalyst for change. And then also another person would be Justin Morrow down over here at MLS. I wouldn't say he's the president, but I think about him as the spearhead of the Black Players Coalition. I hope I got that right. Did I get that right? I think I did. But yeah, that's another big thing. Just real quick before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you guys this last question: what does it mean to see something like that at MLS? And do you think that's something that can grow into other leagues? Seeing that, Black Players Coalition or Black Players Association, do you think that's something that's just going to be a uniquely MLS thing, or do you see it growing?
I mean, well, like I said in the beginning, we have seen it expand its way through the other leagues, such as the NBA and also the NFL. But I really do hope that something like this spreads its way towards the European, especially the European sports. I know for a fact that Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling, they all came in a little bit of a united front to advocate the racism. I really think that the biggest one is Italy. I don't know how much racist abuse that these Italians be putting on these black players, and I want them to unite and say, "Look, we're tired of this thing. Either you fix it, you fix this stuff now, or we're gonna go." Like, seriously, I want a black player exodus out of Italy for real.
It doesn't even have to be Italy. It can be anywhere, to be honest. That would be good enough. Like, it's, you see it in Italy. It happens in every country where there's racial incidents. So if it would happen in one of those, that'd be awesome. But I think there'll be a black coalition in England relatively soon. I think there'll also be one in USL, I hope, in a couple of years. So England and USL would be the two that I see in the future.
Sure.
That's a good shout. Maybe Germany. They're staying proactive. It'd be nice to, like Anu said, to really see some effective change happen in Italy. Unfortunately, a lot of their stuff is ingrained into their supporter culture. So I feel like there's a lot of groundwork to be done with just having interactions supporter to supporter before it could even kind of climb into a place where the players are going to form a coalition and affect change from the top as well. But yeah, I don't know, just maybe even some of the stuff like the Ukrainian leagues, far off things where there are a lot of players out far east and not really getting a lot of shine.
Yeah, true. That's very true. Jake?
Yeah, I agree on that. I think I think Europe is a little different in this aspect. I think if you had in general European black coalition, I think that would be big because there are players that, I can't imagine being the only black player in the Romanian league, what that would be like. So I hope Europe, whatever country it starts in, I hope it grows and as a united front across Europe, just so that everyone's looking out for each other. But definitely USL. I think NWSL has one already, and if not, I guarantee they're probably working on it. And maybe even NCAA. I'm not sure how that would work out, but black players playing college currently are going to be playing college. If something comes up with that, but NCAA is a whole different ball game. But just anything where you're uniting black voices across the league, where these kind of issues we've been talking about all podcasts, where it's not just fading away, it's constantly being brought up and constantly having a focus. Wherever it happens, it's a good thing.
True. Yeah, man. It's something that I can see really growing up. Definitely, if you kind of look at the NBA, it's kind of going in that same direction of black voices being amplified. NFL, they still think we're in the 1970s, so I don't expect too much out of them. But I just want to say thank you to each of you guys coming on the show. Really thank you to TK FTC for really hosting the podcast for us tonight. But real quick, where can everyone reach out to you guys at, and where can everyone reach out to your respective supporters?
So you can reach me at Kyle Koche on Twitter. Otherwise, you can follow Featherstone at FWD Featherstone.
Okay.
Go for it, Jake.
I'm currently on a Dave Chappelle social media hiatus, but Fires_Black on Twitter, and then Blackfire CF97 on Instagram. And if you're an FC Köln supporter, one FC Köln Chicago.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna be. I don't do Twitter, but I'm on Instagram. If you wanted to just give me a shout out personally or follow on that Thundercat_ho, and you can catch FTC on all the social platforms at FTC UTD.
How do you spell that hoe?
HO.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Lion status.
You can find me at Dominable17 on Instagram. I just started it, so kind of new. But also you can find me on a new _Weissman on Twitter. And of course, I'm also part of FTC UTD.
Okay. And once again, my name is Elliot Barr. My co-host is Shanair Duran II. You can follow Can I Kick It on your favorite podcast player. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that's anywhere. You can follow the show at River City 93, where we also cover the Richmond Kickers. With that being said, guys, catch you guys out later.